Good afternoon, everyone. This lecture will cover the short story The Necklace and the short story writing assignment requirements. Keep in mind that for this assignment, you're explaining the writer's message as it relates to the protagonist's choices, avoid cliche moral of the story assertions, and your analysis must explore the various literary techniques the author uses to support your interpretation. In addition to your primary source, which is your story, you will need 4 secondary sources. This should comprise literary criticisms. Avoid reviews and overviews. For those of you who have selected The Necklace, after you have established your claim and have constructed your outline, begin searching for your sources immediately, because while there are many overviews about this story, it will take some time to find literary criticism, and do not limit yourself to online sources. Northlake College has hard copy journals that have literary criticisms about the story. The minimum word count is 850 words, and this does not include your works cited page. As I have previously stated, once you begin drafting your essay, you must provide a brief synopsis about the author. You can find the details I have here about Guy de Maupassant on any of our literary databases. While Maupassant experienced immediate literary fame, it is primarily because people enjoyed his presentation of peasant characters and street people, and his story's shock value. Some critics found his literature to be mere trickery and filth, primarily because of his story Madame Tillier's establishment. In this story, Madame Tillier runs a whorehouse, and the characters are not remorseful at the end. The Necklace, which in its English translation was originally published in 1884, readers, specifically English readers, love this whip-crack plot twist so much that this is what Maupassant is known for, even though he rarely used this form. I, like most critics, believe Maupassant died so early that he did not have a chance to really experience international literary fame. Maupassant died in July 1893, a year and a half after he attempted to commit suicide. As per our discussion, you want to consider multiple interpretations before settling on one. The Necklace fits under 2 literary forms, realism and naturalism. Depending on how you see Mathilde and her actions will determine how you will look at these literary forms. Most students explore Mathilde's actions as selfish without considering the time in which the story takes place. If you believe that Mathilde's downfall is self-inflicting, consider the realist perspective. Maupassant is showing readers the reality of the human condition. Because the story is told in third-person omniscient, readers are allowed to see Mathilde's true self, the jealousy and envy, but these are human characteristics. Most readers hate her because she feels this way. From the very beginning of the story, the narrator explains she had no dresses, no jewels, nothing, and she loved nothing but that. She felt made for that. She was so liked to please, to be envied, to be charming, to be sought after. What is also another important realistic characteristic are the moral choices the characters must make. When her husband says, "You must write to your friend that you have broken the clasp of her necklace and you are having it mended," that will give us time to turn around. Mathilde could have refused, but even though her husband is attempting to protect her, both have decided to deceive her friend. If you believe Mathilde's life is fated because of social and gender restrictions, consider the naturalist form. Because she had no dowry, no expectations, no means of being known, understood, loved, wedded by any rich or distinguished man, she had to marry what she could because that is what society expected of women. What is also important to note about naturalism is that the characters' lives are governed by the forces of heredity, instinct, and passion. Therefore, under this form, when the narrator explains natural fineness, instinct of what is elegance, suppleness, and wit are the sole hierarchy, and make from women of the people the equals of the very greatest ladies, is an accurate assertion about the time. So what we want to see as a selfish character is a character fighting for survival in an immoral, indifferent universe. When you build your literary analysis, provide a brief plot structure. using the literary plot structure terms, listing only the important parts of the story. In this case, because Monsieur Louisel brought home the invitation to the ball as a means of impressing his wife, she is deeply upset because she does not have anything to wear. Even though he is willing to sacrifice his gun money so she could buy a dress, it is not enough. Her husband suggests she visit a friend to borrow some jewels. Even though she envies Madame Forrester, she goes. Trying on all of her jewels, she could not make up her mind to part with them, to give them back. And she kept asking, "Haven't you any more?" However, once she discovers the black satin box, a superb necklace of diamonds, she wants that. During the rising action, Matilde is the belle of the ball. Everything readers learn that she wanted in the exposition is fulfilled. All the men looked at her, asked her name, endeavored to be introduced. However, at home, Matilde realizes that she has lost the necklace. She and her husband spent 10 years paying off their debt for the necklace, and they have been reduced to abject poverty. One day, Matilde sees her friend with a child and decides to tell her the truth, only to find out the necklace was made of paste. As previously mentioned, this story is told in third-person omniscient, and this perspective helps with the objectivity and truthfulness from both realism and naturalism forms. Whether we like Matilde or not, Maupassant wants to create characters with flaws that emulate the realness of human beings, which is why, as you begin determining your interpretation of the author's message, that you spend time considering the conflict. Is this a story about man versus self, or is it man versus society? As with every story, the setting helps readers to understand the mood and conflict of the story. Set in Paris in the 1880s suggests the importance of style, fashion, but also gender limitations for women. Also, the name of Louisel's home suggests Matilde's feelings about her lot in life. Whether if this is sincere or not, this is how she feels. Fate has dealt her a hard hand. But it's also ironic. At the beginning of the story, she feels herself a martyr, as though she had fallen from her proper station. And the sight of the little Breton peasant who did her humble housework aroused in her regrets, which were despairing and detracted her dreams. However, later in the story, she, like the little Breton peasant, is completing heavy housework. This all demonstrates what she believed was a hard and meager life was an illusion. The last setting, which is the ball, allows Matilde to shine and put on false pretenses. However, as one critic notes, like Cinderella, once the ball is over, she is reduced back to her menial life. As established, Matilde is the protagonist of the story, but is she also the antagonist? While many critics do not explore Monsieur Louisel's role in the story, like her, his role in their plighted life is significant. He is an enabler. Yes, he wants to give his wife a nice night out. He sacrifices his gun money and his integrity for her happiness. But he is also rewarded at the ball because the whole official world was at the ball. They were aware that he, a little clerk, is with the prettiest woman of the ball. For those who want to immediately sympathize for Matilde, we have Madame Forrester, and she changes the way that we should also see Matilde. This is the friend who Matilde did not like to go see anymore because she suffered so much when she came back. While Matilde aged from her 10 years of hard work, Madame Forrester is still young, still beautiful, still charming, and she has a child while the Louisels remain childless. The most obvious irony is the ending, when Madame Forrester tells Matilde that the necklace was made of paste. But what most students ignore is that even though the necklace was made of paste, it still cost more than Matilde's dress. Because the realism form, characters are more important than the plot, there are also not that many symbols. Twice in the story, the narrator uses the phrase, "before the looking glass," before and after the ball. The glass is a mirror, which is a conventional symbol typically symbolizing self-reflection. Consider what Maupassant could be implying with Matilde's first and second look into the glass. One of the most important symbols, I think, in the story is when Matilde's husband tries to cover her with a modest wrap. Most critics believe this is where the necklace falls. The ruse have been uncovered because Matilda is too ashamed to be wrapped, escapes. Here's where fantasy meets reality, and it cannot be. Even though Matilda tries so hard to escape her life, she cannot. However, the most important and obvious symbol, which can also be considered an allegory, is the paste necklace. When Matilda sees it, it is wrapped in a black satin box, suggesting that it has more value, like Matilda. Even in the beautiful ball gown, her value, either economical or social, is an imitation. Now, as you look at this story and start delving deeper into the story, these are some questions you want to consider. Now, remember, as you build your analysis, you analyze, question, infer, and that's how you come to an interpretation. As you answer this question, answer them and see if you can find textual proof to support your answer. Now, it doesn't matter if you're writing on this story or any other story. A critical analysis requires that you read it multiple times, even during the writing process, that you make active annotated notes, ask questions, plan ahead. That's the major thing. Plan ahead, creating multiple interpretations and seeing which one fits or which one that you can find enough adequate resources that will support it. Give yourself time to revise multiple times, looking at your claim, understanding what your claim is, and making sure that each paragraph supports that claim. And also giving yourself time to edit and proofread your paper multiple times, more than once. And also going to the Writing Center throughout the writing process will help make sure that you address all of the writing prompt questions. Now, this is the basic structure that your paper should follow for a short story analysis. In your introduction, you will have 2 paragraphs. The first paragraph will provide biographical information about the author, followed by a brief plot summary using the standard plot structure terms, and then followed by your claim that explains the author's message as it relates to the protagonist's choices. Each body paragraph will focus on a specific literary element that helps to support your interpretation, followed by use of both your primary and secondary sources that will validate it. And then your conclusion will be an evaluative conclusion. Remember, it should not be a summary of the story. If you have any questions about anything, either the necklace or any of the other short stories, I am happy to help you, but you want to get started. Good luck.